Hey there, Mission Control. So this has kind of been a problem out here, as I've put in previous video. We're having a big problem with the fact that these lanes were not designed for microgreens, and yeah, really we need the microgreens to be working because that's how we get extra revenue, help pay for everything. So here's the skinny on what's happening is we have a flood and drain system, and it's working as designed. It is flooding, it is draining, and on lane 3, the plants are doing great, but they're not microgreens. Again, this was designed for plants, not for microgreens. The microgreens, however, are having a problem with the flood and drain system. When you first plant the microgreens, the trays are light, so they float on the water as it comes up, and it doesn't distribute as well as it should. The water level right now, in order to convert these, so that's problem number 1, is the trays float. Problem number 2 is, in order to get the trays in here and have them sit just right, we need the water level to come up and get to the trays, so we've had to dig down a little bit into the grow bed, and we have water coming up above the actual rock line, which in normal aquaponics you would not want because it creates algae and mold and moss in some lanes. So we really don't like water coming up above the rock line. And in all the research and everything and watching YouTube videos, it becomes apparent really microgreens are meant to be sprayed from the top down. So in previous video we talked about ways that I was trying to water it. We tried to use a dripper hose coming from the top down, and there's just not enough water there. We tried to use wicking method to try to get grow pads wet. We tried to use the gallon per hour little bubblers, but that's not enough. And I've been experimenting with these little guys here. These are misters. Garden every day, get it at Ace Hardware misters, and they're not like the misting heads that you would see like if you're in Arizona or in the desert, where they have a lot of overhead misting so that you can have evaporative cooling. These aren't those heads, but we might want to play with it. So I'm sitting here, and I was sitting in my thinking chair, and here's the thinking chair. Thinking chair right there. Okay, so I'm sitting in the thinking chair, and I'm getting pretty frustrated. I'm having to do this modification. This summer, we're going to modify this whole thing. It's going to be completely redone. So it is optimized for microgreens, but I need a temporary solution. So enter TheRealMartian. What I had it occurred to me that I really need to be having the system water from the top. It needs to be somewhere close to the light system here. I tried having these sprayers shoot up from the bottom and then cascade over like this, but they were getting the light soaking wet. So I'm sitting there going, we only need to run these things for once a day, and it just needs to go down and back probably. So I prefer that they not be running when the light's running. But we could, if we mounted the watering system to the light, like what I have here. A little closer for you. So here we have the just a temporary solution. This isn't permanent. It's not our permanent temporary solution. This is just an old bar that I had, a little graphite bar, I think, or aluminum bar, looks like. And I just zip tied 2 of the sprayers to the top, or to the bar, and I ran some of the hose for the sprinkler. I just ran it up and ran it the same way that I've run the electrical. So now I want to plug in with the light. I just want to plug in the motor. I'll go mobile here. Okay, so here's the idea. It's starting to move. You see the spray there? And what I want is just a fairly even pattern over the bed, but not outside of the bed. And sadly, you can't really see it. Maybe you can see some water coming off my hand. There we go. And I can just let these things go back and forth on the lighting system. Probably I could turn it on at night. turned it on in the morning. So kind of hard watching slow motion there. The thing moves so slow. To the back side here. So the spray pattern, I'm seeing it come down here. It's coming down here. This one's kicked in a little bit, so we need to kick it out. But all in all, I think I could probably do the job with just 2 of these things. Just like that. So I think what I want to do is think this through a little bit more first, but that should probably work. Oh, here we go. Here's a bind. Got lots of wires and cables over here binding up. Alright, so there's our good idea problem. It could work if it wasn't for the binding. Okay, so now I got to solve the binding problem, but this idea certainly has merit. Some things to work through there. The binding problem, how to keep the hoses all organized so they don't pinch or anything. That's going to be a challenge. Got to build an actual bar for it, but that's no big deal. And then the real challenge here is this. Right now I have it all temporarily going into the grow bed inlet right here. I just have this running in temporarily. You would think that would be fine, but here's the problem. The grow bed actually needs to continue to flood and drain. So what we're going to do is we'll be able to put the water level below the rock line, but we still need it flooding and draining. So I can't have the watering, the irrigation system for the microgreens on the same inlet as that, because it's controlled by a single valve, and I don't want these things running all the time. If they run all the time, then our microgreens get really, really wet, and they mold, mildew, bad things happen. So we really don't want that. So we really need to put in a separate supply line. Here's the main supply line coming in right here. So if I put in just the irrigation supply line, the black stuff that you usually use for these drip systems, and just run it temporarily through all of this, I think we'll be fine. And I can reuse that for the final solution, because I do need to run irrigation to everything. And misting certainly seems like the right thing to do. So there's the problem. Look forward to hearing your comments and your thoughts. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you liked it, be sure to give it a thumbs up and hit subscribe. You can also join us on Facebook and Twitter if you want to get notified when we have new videos. In the meantime, everybody, this is The Real Martian.